Hi, and welcome back. What we are going to be making today is, well, I should say we're not making today, but we are prepping today, is fried chicken. It's one of my family's favorite. So when I went to the supermarket, I went to see how much the drums were. The drums were $1.99. Then I went to see how much the wings were. The wings were actually $5.99 a pound. Well, that's kind of really expensive for chicken, especially for the amount of people and the mouths that I feed. So what I looked to see was what other types of chicken that were on sale at my local supermarket, and to see how I could kind of cut the cost while still giving them that juicy fried chicken that everybody likes. What my supermarket had on sale was they call these leg quarters. So you have the thigh and the drum attached to each other. I got this for 79 cents a pound. So I got a couple of packages, and what we're going to do is we're going to wash the chicken just with some cold water. Never use hot water, never use soap. So you just run it under cold water. If you wanted to, if your chicken was looking yellow, you could always put it in a little bit of water diluted with some white vinegar. But my chicken is nice and colorful. It's not yellow. So I just rinse this under cold water, and then you always want to pat your chicken dry. What we're going to do next is we're going to separate the chicken, because I want to make fried chicken. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate the drum from the thigh. So what you want to do is you want to hold it upright. You can kind of see from the back tendon, if you push the skin down a little bit, and you can feel with your finger, right where that tendon is right where the bone is. So you're going to hold it upright, and you're going to cut just to make a little slice. And then what you're going to do is pop it back, and you can actually see that bone. So I'm going to actually just cut through that tendon and cut on either side of the bone. And there you have it. Now I have the thigh and I have the drum. So I'm going to place these in the bowl. Wash all the rest of your chicken. Cut the two pieces up. Make sure to pat them dry before you put them in the bowl. Alright, so one more thing while we're cutting up the rest of our chicken I wanted to kind of point out is some of these leg quarters can be pretty big. And almost too big to fry as a one piece. It's more like the size of a breast. So I want all my pieces to be more consistent and have the same cook time while I'm frying them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to take off the back part. So obviously when the chicken, is in whole, we have some of this spinal cord on the back here. It's still got, maybe some pieces of the liver. The cartilage is right on the back, and so that's not really good to eat. Although it's not going to hurt you to fry it up, you can kind of feel there's a bone coming off towards the end here, but it's not a really thick bone. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my knife and I'm going to cut along the back side of it. Just to release it up. And actually it's not even bone, it's just cartilage. So I'm just going to kind of you have to definitely get in here with your hands and kind of feel around. You can kind of see I'm exposing it here. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and stick the knife under that a little bit more. While doing that, I'm going to cut off some of this fat. You can kind of see from the back side, I'm exposing it here. And also, by doing that, you're also taking off the bones off the top. So just be very careful with your fingers. Just cut a little bit, reach in there with your fingers, kind of feel around, and pull it up. What we're going to do is you're going to feel out where the joint is for the thigh bone. And we're actually going to cut the piece right off. So I'm going to cut off some of the side here so I can kind of see a little bit more. You can kind of see there's the bone right there. So I'm going to actually just take this, turn it over, and I'm just going to flip this up. And by doing that, I kind of heard the bone pop, and you can kind of see it came out of the socket there. And I'm actually going to take my knife and just cut right along the edge. So here is what it looks like from the back side. It's almost like, it looks like kind of like a spare rib, right? But then on the inside, it's really a lot of bone. There's only little tiny pieces of meat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save these, and they're going to become my stock. So again, you still have the thigh meat. I'm still cutting the leg away. I'm going to take it, cut a little bit more here. I'm going to snap it. And then cut down. So then I still have my leg. And then cut away any thick fat that's really kind of overlapping, because you're not going to want to cook that either. And that will get added to my stock as well. So now you have the thigh. And if you were going to buy thighs in the store, that's exactly what it would look like. You would just have that one bone right through the middle. You wouldn't have the extra piece like these ones do of all the bone along the side. But because we bought leg quarters, you kind of have to do a little bit more prep. And I think, usually that's why it's a little bit less expensive as well later time. Alright, so we have all of our thighs and drums separated. So what we're going to do now is we're going to dredge them in buttermilk. So when we talk about buttermilk, buttermilk comes in a few different ways. It either comes in a carton like milk does, or it comes in a powdered form. My supermarket was out of the carton milk, so I had to buy the powdered form. If you do use the powdered form, for every cup of water that you want, or every cup of liquid, you use 4 tablespoons of powdered buttermilk. So I have 3, because I'm doing a large amount of chicken. I'm doing 3 cups of buttermilk. So what I'm going to add to that, and actually pre-measured all my rest of my ingredients, is I have about a half a teaspoon of celery seed. I have a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. I have a half teaspoon of paprika. I have a full teaspoon of garlic powder and a full teaspoon of onion powder. And then I have salt and then some pepper. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my buttermilk, because we're going to mix this up. We're going to pour it over the chicken, and we're going to let it sit overnight. So, it doesn't have to, you'll still have some clumps because you're putting powder into liquid, but we're going to go ahead and dump that all on our chicken. And you basically want the chicken submerged in the buttermilk. So you're going to get your hands dirty one more time. You want to just kind of press down the chicken, make sure the buttermilk is all evenly coated in there. What you can do, so it's 5 o'clock my time at night. I'm going to cook this chicken tomorrow. If you wanted to cook it the same day, I would suggest that you need at least 4-hour soak for the chicken in the buttermilk. So what I'll do tomorrow when I get up, I'll leave it sitting in the fridge, which is about 8 hours. And then I'll get up in the morning, I'll kind of just come back through, mix it up, make sure it's, move some of the chicken pieces, maybe flip them around. And then when I'm getting ready to cook my dinner at 5 o'clock, then we'll do that second step where we take the pieces out, put them in flour, and start our oil to go ahead and start frying those up. So I'm going to put the cover on this and put it on the bottom shelf of my fridge. You never want to put any type of raw meat on the top shelf, just in case something happens, dishes crack, they leak. You definitely don't want anything, especially raw chicken juices, dripping all over your fridge, because it'll contaminate anything else that you have for fruit and vegetables. So we're going to go ahead and put the cover on this, and then we will come back this time tomorrow, so a good 24-hour soak, and we will fry up some chicken. Okay, welcome back. What we are going to start doing is we have our chicken out of the fridge. We're going to get ready to start frying it up. So what I did, you can do it in a plastic bowl or a container if you want. I choose to do mine in a plastic bag. And what we have here is we have salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, and paprika. We're going to always season our flour, mix it up, and just kind of get it all in there. So that way when we dredge the chicken in the flour, it's nice and coated and seasoned. So, you don't want to try to get too much liquid in your bowl. Let's see if I can zoom in on here. So when you take your chicken out, just let it drip for a second, and then put it in the bag. I'm going to do 2 of these, and maybe 3. Okay. Make sure you have a paper towel or something to wash off your hand. Close it up, and then just shake it around, getting the flour all coated evenly on the chicken. Now, when you take the chicken out, kind of want to dust off the remaining flour. So there we have our piece of chicken. If you like your batter extra crispy, you could actually double dip it back into the buttermilk and into the flour mixture again. But we're just going to do ours regular here. You want to make sure you have your oil up to 350 degrees. And you want to make sure you use or purchase, if you don't have one already, a candy thermometer. So you can kind of see, you see it on the chart here, my oil is actually pushing 375. So I'm going to turn down the heat a little bit and let that sit. Because I don't want to put the chicken in right now if it's at 375. It really should be between 340 and 350 if you're going to cook chicken. So that way it keeps a nice even coat and it doesn't burn the batter and not cook your chicken, because then you'll be finishing your chicken in the oven. So we'll just get that everything set up, wait for our temperature to come down just a little bit on our oil, and then we'll drop down our first 3 pieces. I'll show you what that looks like, and then we'll go ahead and dredge more chicken in the flour and fry up some thighs. Alright, so our oil is nice and hot. It's sitting at a nice 350 degrees. So the next step that you're going to do is you're going to gently put the chicken in the oil. If you're afraid to put it in with your fingers, obviously you're not going to touch your fingers in the oil, but use some tongs. But you definitely don't want to throw it in there. Don't get afraid and just, you know, and flop it in there, because if you burn yourself, this oil is super hot. So to test the oil, obviously I have a candy thermometer, and it goes up to 410 degrees. But what you want to do is just lay your chicken in and then just let it go. And you never ever want to make sure you have more than 3/4 of oil in your pan, because you're cooking on a flame and you have oil, so you don't want to start a grease fire. If you ever do get a fire though, don't panic. Shut the gas off or the electric that you have, and keep some baking soda that you have in the fridge, like the box of baking soda. Just keep that handy. That'll put out any grease fire. So I'm putting in my 3 drums, and I'm going to start with that first to see how that looks. And you can see that it's nice and bubbling. Just be careful, because as the chicken cooks, it will pop, and it will pop at you, and it'll hurt. But just make sure you know, if you have one of those screens that you put over the pots. I just threw mine out. I have to get another one. go ahead and stick that over it, but just kind of keep an eye on it and keep your distance unless you're looking to actually turn the chicken or mess with it. And while the chicken's setting up and cooking, you want to go ahead and prepare yourself for when the chicken comes out. So I always keep mine right next to where I'm frying. So you can see I have my sheet pan and I have my wire wraps over it. So that way, when I take the chicken out, it'll drain off the excess grease. You could also put it on a plate with some paper towels as well. Alright, so we just took our chicken out. We have it cooling on the rack. I don't know if you can see that in the background. We are now going to fry up some of these thighs. So again, the oil is still piping hot. Put that in nice and easy. You want to wait about a couple of seconds before you throw your next piece in. And this helps so that you don't overcrowd the pan and that it doesn't stick together to the other piece. If you overcrowd while cooking, your oil temperature will go down, and then you won't get a nice even cook, and then you'll end up just absorbing a lot of the oil rather than frying it. While that's cooking, you want to go ahead and make sure if you don't leave your thermometer in there, you want to constantly keep checking to ensure that you're holding a 350-degree temperature. Okay. While you're cooking your thighs, you want to go ahead, now that the grease has had time to drain on your legs that you've done, you want to go ahead and take a meat thermometer and make sure that each piece, and you can see it in the camera because of the glare, there we go. You want to make sure each piece is at a minimum of 165 degrees. Thighs and legs, you can do like 170, and that's just about where mine's reaching now, or even 175. You don't want to see any pinkness around your meat, and especially anytime you're cooking with meat and it's still on the bone, it tends to stay a little pinker. And don't get confused pink with dark meat, because the thighs will have dark meat, so it'll appear pinkish. But so these look good. So I'm going to go ahead and check the other two to make sure we're at a good temperature. Okay, so our thighs are out of the oven, out of the oil, and you can see they're very good. Let's see if you can see the temperature on that. Good, 170 right on the button. And I did deep fry these and double dip them twice. So you can kind of see the difference between one coat on the drums and then 2 coats on the batter, so it's actually extra crispy. As I started frying them, I got a visit that said, "Are you going to make crispy chicken, or are you just going to fry it just a little bit?" So that's why I went ahead and double dipped them.